Eva could hardly sit still in the car. Her hands drummed on the dashboard, her face pressed against the window as endless stretches of Florida forest blurred by. This was her first real camping trip without family. Just her and her two closest friends, Max and Simon. She had begged them for weeks, nagged them relentlessly until they finally caved. "You'll thank me later," Eva said for the 100th time that day, a wide grin on her face. Max, sitting in the passenger seat, rolled his eyes. "You sound like a broken record. If I get eaten alive by mosquitoes tonight, I'm blaming you." From the back seat, Simon smirked. "Yeah, or worse, if some swamp monster gets us, it's your fault too." Eva spun around in her seat and stuck her tongue out. "Oh, please. You two act tough, but I guarantee you'll be crying the moment you hear a branch snap." Max let out a laugh. "We'll see who cries first. My money's on you, princess." The teasing continued until they reached the edge of Apalachee National Forest, a place dense with pine, cypress, and blackwater swamps. The sun was beginning to sink, staining the horizon with shades of orange and red. Shadows stretched long across the forest floor, and the air grew cooler as they pulled into the dirt clearing that served as the campsite. Eva hopped out of the car before the engine even died, inhaling the crisp scent of pine needles. "Finally! Look at this place. Isn't it perfect?" Simon got out slower, stretching his arms. "Perfect for who? Bears?" Max grabbed their bags and tents. "Relax, it's just a forest. Nothing here but raccoons and mosquitoes." Together, they set up their tents. Eva's small green one sat close to the boys' larger shared tent. By the time the sun disappeared, the three of them were huddled around a campfire. The flame light cast dancing shadows across the trees, making the forest look alive. Eva roasted a marshmallow on a stick, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "See? Isn't this fun? No video games, no phones, no distractions. Just us, the fire, and nature." Simon gave her a sarcastic thumbs up. "Yeah, or worse, if some swamp monster gets us, it's your fault too." Eva spun around in her seat and stuck her tongue out. "Oh, please. You two act tough, but I guarantee you'll be crying the moment you hear a branch snap." Max let out a laugh. "We'll see who cries first. My money's on you, princess." The teasing continued until midnight approached. The fire burned low, embers glowing red. The forest was pitch black beyond the circle of light. Every sound amplified: the rustle of leaves, the hoot of an owl, the distant croak of a frog. Eva yawned and stretched. "I'm calling it a night. Don't stay up too late." Max teased. "Scared already?" "Huh, I just don't want to be tired tomorrow," she shot back, crawling into her tent. The boys laughed quietly as she zipped herself inside. But as Eva laid down in her sleeping bag, a strange unease began to settle over her. She tried to shake it off, telling herself it was just her imagination. Still, the way the trees groaned in the wind, the way the forest seemed too still, it made her heart beat a little faster. Outside, Max and Simon eventually doused the fire and retreated into their tents as well. The clearing was swallowed by darkness, save for the faint glow of the dying embers. Eva drifted off to sleep, unaware that something was already stirring deep within the forest. Something that had been waiting for the cover of night. At first, it was just a faint noise, so quiet that she half dreamed it. A low, guttural growl carried on the wind. Her eyes shot open, breath catching in her throat. She held still, listening. There was again, closer this time. Her tent fabric trembled slightly as if something brushed against it from outside. Eva sat up, her pulse hammering. Every hair on her body stood on end. She forced herself to whisper, "Max? Simon?" No answer. Only the forest. Then came the sound of branches snapping under heavy footsteps. Whatever it was big, and it was circling the campsite. Eva's trembling hand reached for her flashlight, but she froze halfway. The growl was right outside now, deep and rumbling, vibrating through the ground itself. Her throat going dry, she wanted to scream, but terror sealed her lips. This wasn't an animal, at least not an animal she had ever heard before.
Eva sat frozen in her tent, heart pounding so loud she thought it would give her away. The growling circled the campsite like a predator testing its prey. The sound was unlike anything she'd heard before. Too deep for a bear, too guttural for a wild dog. It was almost unnatural. The nylon wall of her tent shivered again, as though something brushed against it deliberately. She couldn't take it anymore. Eva scrabbled out of her sleeping bag, unzipped her tent, and bolted toward Max and Simon's. She ripped open their flap and hissed in a desperate whisper, "Max! Simon! Wake up!" The boys groaned in confusion. Simon sat up first, rubbing his eyes. "Eva, what the hell?" "I heard something," she gasped, her voice trembling. "There's something outside, growling. It's not an animal. I swear it's not an animal." Max groaned, flopping back down onto his pillow. "Eva, it's probably a coyote or something. Relax." "No!" Eva's voice cracked. "It was right outside my tent. It touched it. I swear, it touched it." Simon sighed and rubbed his face. "Look, maybe it's a raccoon digging through our bags. Animals sound scary at night, but they're harmless. Don't freak yourself out." Eva stared at them, wide-eyed. "I'm not imagining this." Max smirked in the dim light of the tent. "Didn't someone say earlier that she was the bravest one here, and now you're shaking like a leaf?" "This isn't funny, Max," Eva snapped. Her fear was raw, genuine. For the first time, Simon's expression softened. "All right, fine. We'll check outside just to make you feel better. Stay here." He grabbed a flashlight, and Max reluctantly pulled on his shoes. The boys pushed past Eva and stepped out into the black forest air. Their flashlight beam cut through the darkness, swinging wildly between the trees. Eva clutched her own arms, watching them disappear into the tree line. The forest swallowed them instantly. For a moment, everything was quiet again. Too quiet. Eva retreated into the boys' tent, hugging her knees to her chest. She told herself they'd be back in a minute, 5 at most. She kept her eyes on the thin glow of the flashlight outside until even that vanished. Minutes passed. 5. 10. Her stomach knotted. They should have been back by now. She tried calling Max's phone, but her screen flashed no signal. She tried Simon's, same thing. The weak reception out here left her completely cut off. The silence pressed down on her until she could hear nothing but her own shallow breathing. Finally, after nearly 30 minutes, Eva couldn't take it anymore. The fear of waiting in the dark outweighed the fear of what might be out there. She grabbed a lantern from the tent, switched it on, and forced herself into the night. The air outside was sharp and cold, the kind that prickled against her skin. The trees towered like dark giants, their branches clawing at the sky. Every step she took crunched on dry leaves that seemed deafening in the suffocating silence. "Ava? Simon?" she called, her voice quivering. "This isn't funny anymore." The lantern flickered, stretching shadows across the ground like black fingers reaching for her. She followed the faint trail into the trees, every step echoing as though the forest itself was mocking her. The smell hit her next, faint at first, then stronger. Metallic, like rust or blood. Eva gagged but pressed on. Her light caught something snagged on a low branch. She froze. It was a piece of fabric, torn and dangling. Her hand trembled as she reached for it. When she brought it closer, her stomach dropped. It was part of Max's jacket. Her breathing grew ragged. "Oh God, no!" She forced herself to keep moving, clutching the lantern so tightly her knuckles turned white. The growling returned again, deep and rumbling, vibrating through the earth. This time, it wasn't distant. It was close. Very close. Eva spun in every direction, but the trees stretched endlessly, the darkness between them thick and suffocating. The growl circled her again, like a predator toying with its prey. "Max! Simon, please answer me!" Suddenly, a sharp snap of a branch echoed to her right. She swung her lantern toward the sound. Nothing but trees. Then another snap behind her. She spun again. The lantern flickered violently, shadows jerking across the forest floor. Her pulse hammered in her ears. Somewhere just beyond the light, something exhaled. A wet, heavy breath. Eva stumbled backwards, clutching the lantern to her chest. "Please, please, no!" Her foot caught on a root and she crashed to the ground. The lantern tumbled from her hands, rolling across the dirt before coming to a stop. Its light now pointed outward, illuminating the trees in a trembling, narrow beam. For a fraction of a second, she saw it. A towering figure standing between the trees. Its body was impossibly thin, its limbs too long, its skin pale and stretched like parchment. Its head cocked unnaturally to one side, glowing eyes burning through the shadows. Eva's breath caught in her throat. She couldn't move, couldn't scream. The figure twitched once, then darted back into the darkness with inhuman speed. The growl thundered around her again, closer, hungrier. Eva scrambled to her feet, snatched up the lantern and bolted through the forest. Branches whipped her face, roots clawed at her ankles, but she didn't stop. She didn't dare. She burst back into the campsite, gasping, drenched in sweat. But Max and Simon's tent was still empty. Their things were untouched. On the ground near the dead fire pit, she saw it. Something smeared across the dirt. She crept closer, praying it wasn't what she thought it was. Her lantern revealed dark, wet streaks across the soil. Blood. Eva dropped to her knees, trembling uncontrollably. Her stomach churned, her vision swam. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "No, no, no, this can't be real!" Her hands shook as she covered her mouth, stifling a sob. Then she heard it. From the edge of the forest, a whisper. Her name. Eva. It was soft, drawn out, in a voice that didn't belong to Max or Simon. Eva's blood ran cold. The growling returned, louder, closer. Eva backed toward the car, fumbling with her keys, her body trembling so violently she could barely keep her grip. But before she reached it, something moved in the tree line. Something tall, something waiting. And Eva realized, with a sinking horror, that she was no longer alone.
Eva's breaths came in ragged gasps, each one trembling in the icy night air. Her lantern flickered as she pressed her back against the car, eyes darting toward the tree line. Whatever that thing was, it hadn't moved since she first saw it, just stood there in the dark, impossibly tall, limbs crooked, its glowing eyes locked on her. And then, with a sickening fluidity, it tilted its head further, the bones cracking audibly even from where she stood. Eva whimpered, fumbling for the car door handle. Her fingers slipped, slick with sweat. She yanked on the handle, locked. She cursed under her breath and fumbled with her keys, her hands trembling so violently she dropped them. The metallic clink of her keys hitting the dirt sounded deafening. She froze. The forest froze. Even the wind seemed to stop. Then, snap! A branch broke underfoot. The figure stepped closer. Eva let out a strangled cry, snatched the keys, and scrambled into the car. She slammed the lock down, heart thundering as she shoved the key into the ignition, but when she twisted it, the engine coughed once, sputtered, and died. "No, no, no," she sobbed, twisting the key again and again. Nothing. Through the windshield, she saw the creature moving between the trees. It didn't walk like a person. Its limbs bent wrong, swinging too far, almost like a puppet on tangled strings. And then suddenly, it was gone. Her lantern outside guttered and went out, plunging everything into darkness. Eva sat rigid, the silence pressing against her skull. A noise broke it. Not growling, not snapping branches. Whispering. It came from right outside the car window, low and deliberate. At first she couldn't make out the words, but then she realized it was calling her name. Eva. Her blood ran cold. Slowly she turned her head toward the driver's side window. Nothing. Her own pale reflection stared back at her from the glass. But behind it, something moved. A face! White, gaunt, too close. Eva screamed and ducked down into the passenger seat. She covered her head with her arms, tears streaming down her face. The whispering grew louder, now layered with something else, breathing, wet, ragged breathing. She had to move. She couldn't stay here. Gathering what little courage she had left, Eva shoved the door open, bolted from the car, and ran back into the forest. The darkness swallowed her whole. Her legs burned, lungs screaming for air, but she didn't stop. Branches clawed at her arms, whipping across her face. She didn't care. She just had to get away. Somewhere behind her, the growl returned, deep, hungry. She tripped on a root and crashed to the ground, her lantern shattering beside her. The faint flame inside sputtered out, leaving her in almost total blackness. Eva scrambled forward on her hands and knees, her palms scraping against rocks and dirt. Her vision blurred with tears, but she forced herself to keep moving. And then she froze. The air changed. It was colder here, thick with a stench so foul it burned her nose, rotting flesh, metallic blood, and damp earth. She realized she had stumbled into a small clearing. Moonlight slipped weakly through the branches above, just enough to illuminate what lay before her. Her stomach lurched. Clothes. Torn, shredded clothing scattered across the ground. A shoe, a ripped backpack, a familiar baseball cap. Max's! Eva staggered forward, her legs trembling beneath her. Beside the cap, half buried in leaves, was a phone. She snatched it up with shaking hands, praying for a sign of life. The screen flickered weakly. Dead. "Max?" she whispered, her voice breaking. "Simon?" Something crunched behind her. Eva spun, and her heart nearly stopped. From the shadows at the edge of the clearing, a figure stepped forward. For a moment, hope flared in her chest. "Simon?" But the figure stepped into the pale moonlight, and the hope died instantly. It was Simon, or what was left of him. His face was pale, eyes wide and vacant, his mouth opening and closing silently like a fish gasping for air. His body moved stiffly, jerking unnaturally, as though invisible strings were pulling at his limbs. Blood streaked his shirt, his arms dangled at wrong angles. Eva staggered backward, horrified. "No, no, no, no!" His head twitched violently to the side, bones cracking. His empty eyes locked on hers, and then, in a voice that wasn't his, a voice that rasped like wind through dead leaves, he whispered, "Eva." Eva screamed and turned to run, but another figure blocked her path. Max. But not Max. His skin was torn, his face slack, and his jaw hung too low as though unhinged. His eyes glowed faintly, the same unnatural light she had seen in the thing in the forest. Both of them stepped toward her, their movements jerky and unhuman. Eva stumbled backward, clutching her chest. The growl erupted again, so loud it shook the ground beneath her feet. It came from the forest behind Max and Simon. And then she realized they weren't moving on their own. They were being puppeted. The long, thin arms of the creature emerged from the shadows, its fingers coiling around Max and Simon like strings. Their bodies jerked in sync with its movements, controlled like lifeless dolls. Eva's mind shattered. She turned and ran, screaming into the endless night. The whispers followed her, the growls followed her, and somewhere behind every tree, glowing eyes tracked her every move.
Eva tore through the forest, branches slashing at her arms, roots clawing at her ankles, but she didn't dare look back. The sounds followed her, the growling, the whispering, the sickening crack of bones as the creature moved, dragging her friends' bodies like grotesque marionettes. Her lungs burned, her throat felt raw from screaming. Every step was agony, but stopping wasn't an option. She had seen too much. She had seen Max and Simon's hollow eyes, their lifeless bodies strung up by something unnatural, and she knew, if it caught her, she'd be next. The forest seemed endless. The moon hung high but gave no comfort. Its pale light only illuminated twisted shadows that seemed to move on their own. The air was thick with rot, choking her, slowing her legs. Eva! Her name drifted again from the trees, but this time it wasn't just one voice. It was Max. It was Simon. Both of them calling her name in perfect unison, their voices warped and distorted, overlapping with the creature's guttural hiss. Eva clamped her hands over her ears and stumbled forward. "No, no, stop!" Her foot caught on something soft. She fell hard, her lantern tumbling from her grasp. When she scrambled to grab it, she realized what she had tripped over: a sleeping bag, and beside it, another tent. For a split second, hope flickered. Another group of campers, maybe someone who could help her, maybe someone with a car, a phone, anything. She crawled toward the tent flap, shaking it desperately. "Hello, please, someone help me!" But as her fingers pulled back the flap, her blood froze. Inside lay 2 sleeping bags, both unzipped, both stained dark with dried blood. The smell hit her, sweet, rotten. Her stomach heaved as she stumbled back, gagging. And then she saw it, scratched into the dirt, just outside the tent, carved deep with fingernails, or perhaps something sharper, were words. "Don't look at its eyes."
Eva staggered back, her lantern flickering wildly. From the trees behind her came the sound of snapping twigs, slow, deliberate. Something was coming. She snatched up the lantern and ran again, deeper into the forest, the whispering voices multiplying until it felt like the entire forest was chanting her name. Eva! Eva! Her tears blurred her vision. She couldn't tell if she was running in circles anymore. The trees all looked the same, looming like black pillars, endless and suffocating. Finally, she stumbled into another clearing and froze. There, in the center of the clearing, was a massive rotting tree. Its trunk was hollow, gaping like the mouth of some ancient beast. Around its roots lay bones, piles of them, human bones. Eva's lantern shook violently in her grip. She didn't want to turn away, but something moved in the hollow of the tree. 2 glowing eyes opened. She gasped, dropping the lantern. Darkness swallowed her. And then she heard it moving. The sound of long limbs dragging across bark, the crunch of bones beneath heavy steps, the breath, wet, heavy, rancid, washing over her as it drew closer. She forced her legs to move, stumbling backward, but her foot snagged in the roots. She fell hard, pain shooting up her ankle. From the tree hollow, the creature emerged. Tall, impossible, its limbs stretched too far, its head tilting unnaturally, those glowing eyes burning holes through the night. And dangling from its arms, like broken dolls, were Max and Simon. Their mouths hung open, whispering her name in unison. Eva's scream tore through the forest, raw and primal. She scrambled onto her feet, ankles screaming in protest, and ran. She didn't know where. She didn't care. She just had to get away. The whispers chased her. The growls shook the ground. Her body ached, every breath a knife in her chest. But at last, finally, she saw it. A light. The faint glow of the campsite. Her car. Her salvation. She stumbled into the clearing, collapsing against the hood of the car. With trembling hands, she jammed the keys into the ignition, praying, begging. The engine coughed, stuttered, and then roared to life. "Yes, oh God, yes," she sobbed, slamming her foot on the gas. The tires spun in the dirt before catching, propelling the car forward. She tore down the forest road, headlights cutting through the black. Her hands gripped the wheel so tight her knuckles turned white. Tears blurred her vision, but she didn't dare blink. Behind her, in the red glow of the taillights, something moved. Something fast. She pressed harder on the accelerator, the car roaring down the narrow road, branches whipping against the sides. But no matter how fast she went, the whispers didn't fade. "Eva!" Her rearview mirror caught it. The creature, loping on its grotesque limbs, its glowing eyes locked on her. And dangling from its arms like broken dolls were Max and Simon. Their mouths hung open, whispering her name in unison. Eva's scream tore through the forest, raw and primal. The creature followed for time, but then, as civilization approached, it vanished. Eva sobbed with relief. She had made it. She was getting out. But then, Silence. No whispers. No growls. She risked a glance at the rearview mirror. Nothing. The road behind her was empty. Eva's shoulders shook as she let out a hysterical laugh. She was alive. She had escaped. But she didn't notice the faint reflection in the glass at first. Not until it leaned closer. Not until the glowing eyes appeared behind her head. "Eva!" Her scream echoed into the night as the car swerved violently off the road. The headlights cut out. The forest was silent again.